You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast. Our 50 Pirates in 50 Days series rolls on, and today we're catching up with a guy from the mid-'90s. He played for the Pirates from 1993 to 1996. Linebacker Marvin Burke. Marvin, welcome in.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to do this podcast. Before we get started, I want to say congratulate you guys on what y'all doing. I think this podcast is phenomenal. It's connecting Pirates across the nation, former Pirates across the nation, and current Pirates to, older players and guys that have been instrumental in the program and developing to what it is today. So I want to appreciate you guys for what y'all doing, and I pray that, it leads to bigger things for you all.
Absolutely, Marvin. We certainly appreciate your kind words, and I know that's what Dave, my co-host, was about to say.
Yeah, we no doubt about it. I was going to say, Bubba, when we started the podcast, we had an idea of where it was going to go, but we had no idea how big it would be already in just a year and a half. And Marvin, we thank you. One of the reasons we started the podcast is to honor the players, and that there's a lot of people, like you said, that we wonder, like we get attached to you guys. For 4 years, 3-4 years, 2 years in some cases with JUCOs, but and then we go like, where are they now? What are they doing? They made a huge impact on it. We've had some players, as Bubba will tell you, we're not going to mention names, and they'll tell us, oh, nobody cares about me. I'm old news. I'm history. I had my time, and this. I think they're pleasantly surprised that people do care about them in Pirate Nation, and they do want to hear from them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, you do. You serve your time, and you really put in the effort, blood, sweat, and tears out there on the field to produce a product for the fan base. And a lot of times you do get out of touch. A lot of guys don't make it to the next level, but they're doing astronomical things in their community in which they raised in, or their new community in which they're in. And, Pirate Nation need to find out what these guys are doing and what everybody's doing, because they are impacting their communities in positive ways.
Let's talk about Marvin, how did you, a great place to start, how did you become a Pirate?
Well, it was back in high school. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, so I played at William Raines High School, and then, during the month of December, it was recruiting season back then in those days, and every day during fourth period, I was getting called out of class for some school. A school was coming. I think the whole month of December, I was setting up visits, talking to coaches. And then one day, got a call out about fifth period, which was odd, and go to the cafeteria, and it's Chuck Pagano. So I'm going to the meeting room, sitting down in our football meeting room with Chuck Pagano. We sat in there for about 2 hours, and we were just talking and talking. I didn't mind doing it because I was missing class, which is, I shouldn't say a good thing, but we were sitting there talking football. Showing me the plan, showing me what Larry Coyer was coming in going to do, and what they did on defense, et cetera. So, and then, he was like, hey, come take a visit and see what we all about, and I was like, okay, I really connected with Coach Pagano because he was a genuine guy, real genuine, and enjoyed his enthusiasm and his detail to the game of football, and how much he proved that football could not only impact your life on the field, but impact your life off the field.
And Marvin, then this is something that we can talk a little bit more later on, because I now know that you're in coaching. You've been in coaching for several years now, and that's something the players that you've coached. I know being able to tell them that you were coached by the likes of Larry Coyer and Chuck Pagano, who was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, that they could relate to.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually I actually went to school, played football with a Hall of Famer, Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins
Oh,
was part of
wow.
our football team. He played 2 years with Brian at Reigns, and he really, what Brian is achieving, we've seen in high school. His work ethic, his everything that you see Brian Dawkins in NFL, that's how he was in high school. And we played with them, and I tell kids, Brian was part of our team. I don't use that as a measuring stick, but I just let kids know that, hey, there's an opportunity for you to succeed through your trials and tribulations that you face in life. And Brian, talking about Brian, I tell them about Larry Coyer, Chuck Pagano, and I tell them a lot of guys about these things, a lot of these people that have coached me and really instilled in me the things that I'm trying to give to you all. And I said it didn't come easy. It didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of pounding the pavement, breaking the hard-headedness, but eventually it sunk in, and now I'm trying to impart these things onto you.
So, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to ask you, Marvin, as far as the time period you're there, 93 to 96, obviously difficult season. The very first year you're there as a true freshman, you didn't redshirt. Can you talk about obviously, I think it's you and I went to school at the same time. Obviously, I didn't play football, but that's my era. I graduated in 95. Can you talk about Coach Logan? Can you talk about the Liberty Bowl, those years? What makes Coach Logan so special?
Well, Coach Logan was an offensive genius. I mean, people just don't understand, behind closed doors, the preparation that he put into preparing players, to put them in position to play, to be successful. He go into his meeting room, he got plays written up on the board, and he could dissect the defense. He could tell you why this play is going to work for this defense, the reads, the progression, the blocking scheme, and how everything is going to transpire. And all you had to do was perform it. It's just amazing how you could go into a game plan and see the changes. And the biggest thing that I grasp from Coach Logan that I use is his ability to make adjustments. And that's the biggest thing about the game of football. That's the biggest thing about sports, period. It's your ability as a coach to make adjustments to put your players in better position so they can perform. And that's one of the huge things that I grabbed from Coach Logan during that time. That 2-9 season was tough. I'm coming in as a hot-headed freshman from Jacksonville, Florida. My high school has plenty of success, and all I knew was success coming out of high school. We didn't lose a lot of games. We went deep into the playoffs. So, coming there experiencing losing was a humbling experience for me because I've never experienced that in high school. I never experienced that in junior high school playing. So, and actually seeing those seniors, Jeff Cook, Robert Tate, and those guys, really go through their last year only winning 2 games, the biggest thing that resonated in me was I didn't want this to happen to me. So what can I do in the present to dictate my future? And I think that summer, we really took the initiative to, work ourselves, prepare ourselves. Coach Connors really, turned it up a whole nother level during that summer after that season. And we really went out and we really put in the effort in the off season to prepare our bodies physically. And then I think the coaching staff did a great job of preparing us mentally.
Marvin, I wanted to talk about that 1993 season. You created a nice segue for me. That was a very trying year. You obviously had Marcus Crandall go down, then you had Chris Hester go down. So you're on your third quarterback, Perez Madison, and I don't know if you've had the opportunity to hear that interview, but we actually caught up with Perez to talk about that experience and just how he got thrown to the wolves, so to speak. But that year, just the trying times on the offensive side of the ball, it really kind of overshadowed what an excellent defense we had and the strides that we were making under Coach defensive coordinator Larry Coyer. So can you talk a little bit about Coach Coyer? Obviously, he's a very well-respected defensive coordinator on the NFL level for years and years. I know with the Denver Broncos and others. So tell us a little bit about what you learned from Coach Coyer.
It's so funny that you mentioned that. Perez is actually my roommate. So, just coming in and seeing Perez, You know, when he got his first start, he knew he was going to get his first start. You know, Perez was just as nervous as anybody. Butterflies, I mean, just in the room shaking. He's studying film. He's studying his playbook. And, you know, and I'm sitting there telling Perez, man, don't worry about it. Just go out there and do your thing. You know, you prepared yourself. I mean, let your natural instincts and your football ability take over. You know, and I think that's what Perez did. I mean, Perez did a phenomenal job coming in, getting thrown in the fire, and, you know, just trying to be productive. You know, you can't expect a true freshman to do too much. But I think he came in and guided the ship, you know, and then I think other players, you know, gravitated to him and watched him perform and watch him do whatever he needed to do to try to make us successful. And he did what he can do, you know, with the limited knowledge of the playbook. You know, and Coach Logan wasn't able to open up the playbook, you know, per se like he wanted to. But, you know, they did a great job of preparing Perez. Coach Corrier just really, you know, just instilled in us discipline and detail, you know, discipline and being in position. You know, Coach Corrier used to always get on us. Be in position, be in position, be in position, be in position. And we heard those terms every day. We heard that word every day about getting in position. And then it really resonated, you know, once we saw Coach Corrier teaching us that. Then unfortunately, you know, he left and went on and went to the next level. Then Coach Jett came in and just took being in position to the next level. So we heard being in position from Coach Corrier. Now Coach Jett taught us about watching film, studying film, you know, the details about how can you get yourself in position. So I think that's what really took our defense to the next level, is when Coach Corrier added that one piece of position, and then Coach Jett took the next step. Okay, these details are going to help you get in position to make you better, help you perform on the field. And I think that was the turning point in our defense, and that's why our defense was so great.
Marvin, I wanted to say, maybe I'm biased because that's when I was a student there at East Carolina and graduated. But Bubba, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but I think your era of defense is one of the best. That era is one of the best of all time in the history of Pirate football.
Yeah, I could go on to say it is. I mean, if you look at what we did on the field, I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't have the data or the facts. But if you look at our fourth quarter scoring, I think we probably one year we might only gave up maybe 28, 35 points in the fourth quarter throughout the season.
Marvin, your senior year against the likes of Miami, Virginia. Actually, those were later in the season, but up to midway that year, I think it was at least game 7 or game 8. We had not allowed a point in the fourth quarter because I remember a home game against Ohio U, and we had pulled the starters, but you guys came running back in the field to try to prevent that fourth quarter touchdown.
Yes,
that was homecoming.
That was homecoming. I do remember that, and that's the thing guys don't understand. You know, that's what we really emphasize, and that was Coach Connors emphasized to us. You know, in all season during our training. Hey, we're going to be in the great physical shape. Where now the fourth quarter, I want you to. You may not be 100% of your capacity, but you're going to be at least 50 to 60%. But now you can perform during the fourth quarter. And that's what we really emphasize and harped on. I mean, if you look at the defenses now, you know, that lost, that went away. And I think Coach Blackwell came in and tried to, you know, put that piece back into the defense of ECU. And you can see the difference that he did with the one season that he was at ECU with defensively. You know, the turnaround defensively we had, because that same mindset that was instilled with us when Coach Blackwell was playing with us and coaching with us, and then it carried on over, and he instilled it in his philosophy of defense, and it showed with ECU last year.
You know, Marvin, obviously I didn't play football, but defense is like my baby. I know that Bubba's he's a former quarterback, so he's more offensive-minded. But it just seems like in today's college game that people are just worried about, it just comes down to scoring more points. But for me personally, the defense, if you don't have a defense, to me, you don't have anything. That's just my opinion. Well,
you know, it's all that the mindset is offense sell tickets. You know, that is trickled down into the high school level as well. You know, even trickled down into Pop Warner. You know, people want to see the flashiness, and I think that comes with society and what the media is portraying. You know, media is portraying the flashy guy. NFL guys are being flashy when they score touchdowns, etc. And defense is boring. People do not want to go out and see a defensive battle. You know, they don't want to see that. They want to see the flashiness. They want to see the big plays. They want to see the explosive plays. And all that has transpired into what we see today. But one thing people fail to understand, defense wins championships. You know, if you look at Alabama, you look at Clemson, the guys that was winning the national championship, they play great defense. And they put their offense in position to score the points that they score. And they hold their opponents down to not scoring any points at all. So without a great defense, it doesn't matter how many points you put on the board. You know, if you don't stop anybody, then your tendency of winning is going to be low.
You know, Marvin, you make a great point. I'm sorry, Bubba, if you're going to ask something, but I just want to add something to that. When you're talking about the defensive struggle, you look at your 95 season, that Liberty Bowl, I wanted that Liberty Bowl bad. I didn't care how we won it. And you guys were lights out on defense. And if we didn't have your defense, we probably wouldn't have won that game against Stanford.
No, it was a defensive game. I mean, if you look at what we did defensively, we controlled Stanford. We set the tone and the tempo on defense, and we controlled Stanford's offense, which was pretty good. Todd Whittingham was a great coach. I mean, great offensive mind coach. And you look at what he did, and we really controlled him, and we put our offense in position, and then we won the game on special teams. I mean, and that's the biggest thing that people, you know, forget about, that special team win football games for you. You know, it sets the tone for your offense. It sets the tone for your defense. It puts you in field positions to flip the field. And we was able to flip the field a lot of times on defense and through special teams, and we put our special teams and the offense in position to get points, and that's how we was able to win the game. I mean, if you look at the touchdown we scored, the only touchdown scored was on defense. Everything else is field goals. So that just shows you how much we took pride in our defense, but also how much our coaching staff at that time, you know, emphasized us creating opportunities for everybody else on the team.
Marvin, just to hear a few minutes ago, that's what Dave asked a question regarding that defense of the 1995 season and really that entire era that you were playing, 93 to 96. And obviously it starts with the talent, starts with the Jimmies and Joes, so to speak. And you had the likes of Carlos Brown, B.J. Crane, Morris Foreman, Mark Libiano, Travis Darden, the Hart twins, Snoop Wallace, Rod Coleman. I mean, you can go on and on. So yeah, talk about some of those teammates of yours and just the talent that you had on that side of the ball.
I mean, we were talented. If you look at that class coming in, 93, I think me and Lorenzo were the top recruits coming in that year. You know, Lorenzo West was coming from Atlanta. I was coming from Jacksonville. But then, you know, we had Carlos Brown, who was exceptionally awesome running back in high school. You know, he played linebacker as well from Northeastern. And B.J. coming in from Atlanta. You had Dwight Henry, who played free safety. He was from Florida as well. And all of us was in the same suite, as per se, in Scott Hall, and all of us played. And then if you look at it, they just added on. I mean, all of us are thrown in the fire as freshmen. So we really had to, you know, get ourselves together and learn how to play the game quickly. And then, you know, then the next year, you know, we added other pieces to that. You know, we added Rod Coleman. You added Forrest Foster. You know, Snoop came in as a walk-on, you know, and then ended up earning himself, you know, which we knew Tabari was good, but, you know, he had to prove himself. And he went in and proved himself and got on the field. You got Kevin Suggs, you know, Kevin Monroe that came in and finished up, you know, it helped out our secondary. You know, and the twins were just, you know, emotional leaders for us. Morris Foreman was emotional leaders for us on defense. You know, if we needed something, you know, we on the sideline. People don't understand, on the sideline, we will hold each other accountable. And that was the greatest point about our defense is we were not scared to get up in the next person's face if they're not doing their job. Our coaches didn't have to police that for us. We policed it ourselves. You know, if we weren't doing our job as linebackers, Morris Foreman to come down and chew us out. If the twins weren't doing their job, we'll go down there. Secondary wasn't doing their job, we'll go down there and chew them out. We'll check each other. But when we stepped across that line on the field, we knew we had one goal and one task in mind, and that was to be successful and help the team win. And that's one of the biggest pieces that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is the accountability measurement that we use to hold everybody accountable and to also to make sure that we were productive on the field.
Marvin, one of the things that comes to mind, and you were, I want to get your take because you were, and not to bring up the bad, but that 93 season when Mark Crandall goes down, which was like devastating to me and a lot of people in Pirate Nation, not to mention I'm sure it was devastating how bad his leg was. But as far as that is concerned about the losing season, can you talk about, do you think, I just have a feeling, I've been telling the guys on the podcast on and off air, that we have way more talent on what the current roster we have coming up for 2019. Do you have a feeling these guys are, I know my coach used to say to us in baseball in high school, when you get tired of losing, you find a way to win. Do you think these guys are tired of losing and hopefully they will be like you guys and when they step on the field every time they expect to win?
Well, I believe they have to be. In order to fail, in order to succeed, you must first learn how to fail. And I think a lot of times people come into programs from successful high school programs that they never had a sense of failure. They never understood failure. And in order to succeed, you must first learn how to fail because you don't want to make those same mistakes again. And I think, with the talent that has been coming in, to ECU, I think those guys understand, okay, what it takes to win, know how to win. And that's a lot of things. That's something that I've learned as through coaching is we have to, as a coach, you have to teach your players how to win. You think it's instinctively that they'll figure that out, but honestly, you don't. You really have to coach your players on how to win. And a lot of times when you get subjected to losing, it can be contagious in a negative way, where a lot of kids, start being individuals, really only care about themselves and don't really care about the team. But I think hopefully, these guys in the program now can change that, get rid of that poison, change that dial tone to basically want to say, okay, hey, we're tired of losing. And if you don't want to be on this winning part, you need to remove yourself from the program or take yourself out because we want to win. Because you don't want that contagiousness of losing to spread throughout your players. So hopefully the mindset has changed into winning, and they got enough kids in the program that care about winning as a team, not winning as an individual.
Marvin, back in those days, in 1994, we had won the Liberty Bowl Alliance, gone on to the Liberty Bowl, suffered a 30-0 loss to Illinois. Very talented team they had with the likes of Kevin Hardy and Simeon Rice. But then 95, the mantra building up to that season was unfinished business to win the Liberty Bowl Alliance, which in essence was Conference USA before Conference USA existed, and make it back to Liberty Bowl and finish the business, get the win against whoever the opponent was. So talk a little bit about from, I guess, the conclusion of the 94 Liberty Bowl until the start of the 95 season and then going back and defeating Stanford.
But playing at Liberty Bowl was something special. I think we were overwhelmed. If you look at it, we came from a 2-9 season. We fought to win a lot of games. A lot of games we were out of. We fought to get back in them and win and get that. Especially, I think it was the last game of the year we had to fight to even get the bowl berth, period, in Memphis. I think we played Memphis that year, at Memphis. And we knew if we had to win this game in order to come back, to go to the bowl game. So I think we got caught up in the hype of being in the bowl. We finally won. We had a winning season. We finally reached the bowl, and I think we were overwhelmed by, the presence of being in the bowl. It was new for a lot of us. If you think about it, it was new. A lot of guys in the program have never been to a bowl game. So we didn't know what to expect, and, going out there playing Illinois. Illinois was talented. That don't let their record fool you. I mean, their defense was stout. They had Dana Howard, Simeon Rice, Kevin Hardy. I mean, if you look at these guys went on, they had a tight end that was great. I mean, I think he had probably 10 or 15 catches against us. I mean, they were a very talented team, and and it showed. And then after we got that experience of going to a bowl game, we knew that we wanted to go back again and redeem ourselves. So what do we have to do during this off season to prepare ourselves in order to go back? And I think we really attacked the off season. We bought into Coach Connor's plan of really amping it up another notch. He implemented 300s. which a lot of the older guys know what I'm talking about if they listen to this podcast. I mean, we had a conditioning test that I don't think they do now, where skill had to run 10 300s in 55 seconds with a 30-second rest. And then linebackers had to run a certain amount with 30 seconds rest. I mean, that conditioning test really brought out the man in you, per se. I mean, it really tested your manhood, because a lot of times you were running, your back done locked up, but your will and desire to finish it and make the time and pass the test really brought out our will to want to go back. And I think that conditioning test really set the tone for us going into the season, because it showed us how to fight for what we want. And it showed our will that it took to pass our test. It implemented us. It helped us out on the field as well. So that's how we was able to get back into the ball game the next year and finish the business, is because of the preparation that we did during that summer.
That brings a memory of, unfortunately, one of my great uncles just passed away a few months ago, and he was falling a lot, and they thought he was going to be in a wheelchair, and he told them there was no way he was going to be in a wheelchair. It was mind over matter. And so certainly when you get to that point, I'm getting ready to work out with Mark Washington here in a little bit, and it gets to the point in the last 10 minutes or so where you're desperate, where he puts you through a really rigorous workout. It's definitely mind over matter, so I'll remember that in a little while. I wanted to ask you, not about me, I want to ask you, though, during that time period, it's one of my favorite, as I said, because of when I was there and a lot of success. Can you talk about some of your favorite memories that you had during your playing career with the Pirates?
I mean, it was a lot of memories. I mean, there were several. The one big one, we go to Miami and we beat Miami. I mean, that was real big. I think the '94 season, I could be wrong, when we went to Southern Miss and we had the fake field goal, and it ended up being the pass interference, and we ended up beating Southern Miss.
Yeah, that was 95.
95. Yeah, I think that was big. That was a big memory. And just going into Syracuse. I mean, we went into Syracuse, into the Courier Dome, and really beat them real well. I mean, that was fun to go out there and play. And the biggest memory, I would want to say is just watching us develop, man, watching us come in, as freshmen, and then coming out and turning out having a great year, having great seasons after that 2-9 season, and really seeing everybody, form their own identity, excel on the field into who they are, and then the last game of the season we beat NC State. I mean, I think that's probably was the funnest game that we ever played in, because I mean we heard about all the hype about NC State. Me being from Florida, I didn't understand the NC State ECU rivalry deal, because we have rivals in Florida, but I think it couldn't compare. So then actually being in it and living it and playing in it, it brought out a sense of, okay, this thing is really bigger than what I thought it was, and these fans really care about this game. And going out and beating them the way we did, and really putting a smile on our fans' face was probably one of the biggest memories that I had at ECU.
Hey, Marvin, I was going to say, any way we can sneak you into the game August 31st. We got a big game in Raleigh. Love to have another win for the Pirates against the Wolfpack.
I mean, it is, and I think, man, a lot of the kids need to understand that. I mean, if I tell people, if you don't win no games throughout the whole year, you better beat NC State. You better win your in-state games, and I think that's one thing we did. I mean, we wish we could have played Carolina and all that. We really wanted to play them guys, but just to prove that we are the best team in state, because they were getting all the hype back in those days. But to beat NC State and to play against NC State, these kids need to understand, like, hey, if you don't win nothing else all year, you beat NC State. And then your fan base will be happy because you've been in NC State, because they work with people that are NC State graduates. And, that's a little workroom talk, family discussion. So I think that would be good if they understand that.
And that's one of the things, Marvin. I really think that if from the early 70s up to 87, as we played NC State year in, year out, and now we pretty much play them every 3 years. If we played consistently, a lot more people would know about this rivalry. Yeah,
it is, and that's a shame, but that comes with the territory. A lot of teams don't want to play ECU because we're the homecoming killers. I think one of my years we played against people with their homecoming games, and we beat them during their homecoming. So, you know, a lot of times people don't want to play up-and-coming teams, you know, or teams that have a chip on their shoulder because they know it's going to be a dog fight and their probability of winning is going to be a struggle. It's going to be low. So, I mean, I think, you know, playing against NC State, you know, is really big for that area, for the school, for the culture and climate of the community. And I think that, you know, it needs to be played every year because it's a rival. You know, you got other rivals across different parts of the states. You know, Auburn plays Alabama. They play them every year or whatever they do with that. I mean, you know, Florida, Georgia is a big rivalry here. They play every year. You know, so it's bragging rights, and that's what people look for. So a lot of times we shy away from those things because, you know, a lot of people like to keep the bragging rights for 2 or 3 years and then revisit it later on.
You know, Marvin, I mentioned this before in the podcast, but and Bubba knows, Coach Logan said that the NC State folks don't realize that what they should do is they should make ECU NC State the last game of the season. And he said if NC State wanted to have more success against the Pirates, they would put an emphasis on that game, and they were like, look, you better win this football game. This is a big deal, kind of the way East Carolina does. And he said the fact that now it's only every few years, they don't realize, I don't think they take the game as seriously. They don't really care. They want to portray like they don't care about the game when it means a lot to them. But he was talking about how that would be a great for football and certainly for NC State, for their program to, make sure they knew how important that game was so they'd have more success on the field versus just pretending like it didn't matter.
No, their coaching staff, I'm sure their coaching staff know how important that game is. I mean, they even though they're in the conference, their job is to win, you know, 6 games so they can make it into a bowl game. You know, that's the goal, and possibly win the conference championship, being in the ACC with their division, et cetera. But he knows, their coaching staff knows, I think, you know, their head coach knows that when you play ECU, you better beat ECU, win that game, and you better win it convincingly. You know, and that's just bragging rights for them. I think the last time we beat NC State in I think it was an NC State, and Dave Dorn was saying about somebody kept showing that hook to him. Something I've seen on Instagram about him saying about the hook on the news media when I was in the area about the hook. You know, and he couldn't wait till the next time he played ECU so that he can, you know, show the Wolfpack sign or whatever. Don't quote me on it. But he understands the importance of that game, and he knows that's bragging rights in the area, but also that's recruiting. You know, the biggest thing about, you know, NC State and ECU, we fight for the same players. You know, Raleigh is only, an hour and a half from Greenville, if that long. And, you know, they travel into Eastern North Carolina and recruit players. So, you know, if I beat ECU, that's recruiting bragging rights for me to say, hey, come to my program. You know, we're going to win here. And the same thing, vice versa for ECU. You know, if ECU beats NC State, that's bragging rights for ECU to recruit the kids, to get the best kids to come to your program where you don't lose kids to NC State, Carolina, or Wake Forest.
And, you know, Dave and Marvin, that's one of the things. They try to downplay it, but a couple of great examples of why this game means as much to them as it does us, you know, despite what they say and want to believe or want other people to believe, I should say, is 2008 when we were ranked 15th, they stormed the field. And, okay, that year they may say, okay, you guys were ranked 15th. It wasn't because it was East Carolina. Fine. Well, how about 1997, the year after you had left, Marvin? We were a 5-5 football team that year, and then they stormed the field as well. So I don't want to hear that it doesn't matter.
No, yeah, it matters. You can tell by the reaction. You can tell by the reaction after the game is over with. You know, so that, you know, a lot of times people say, you know, people actually tell you how they really feel. You know, we understand the media bluff or whatever that, you know, a lot of coaches portray in the media when they get interviewed. But when it comes to it behind closed doors, they're emphasizing the win to their program because they know the implications that it'll have if they don't win.
Marvin, I want to mention, too, that we were talking about, this brings something to mind, when you were talking about Dave Doran, he, whenever they won 58-3, unfortunately, in December 1st of last year, that'll haunt me forever. But anyway, he mentioned how that hook and how he broke the finger off. Was there any time in your career where a coach or player gave you any kind of bulletin board material where Coach Logan said, Do you see this? Did he motivate you guys that way, or Coach Jett, or anybody there behind the scenes?
Yeah, they did. They motivated us with bullet board material. I can't remember exactly when, but I remember coming into the sports med building. We was going in the locker room, and they had some stuff hung up on the board. And one of our GAs found some information from a newspaper of one of the teams we were playing, and they were really talking bad about us. Like, this was just an easy game, pancake game. Who was Eastern Carolina? You know how they pronounce East Carolina wrong all the time. And we really like, oh, they're just really disrespecting us. And we used that as fuel to go out and perform. I can't remember exactly when that was or what game it was, but I remember they did use bulletin board material, you know, a lot of times, but they also told us don't give other teams bulletin board material. You know, and in my years there, we had some guys that could talk, you know, that really could talk a lot of junk. And they was making sure that they was lessening our bulletin board material, but also using other teams' media stuff to give us bulletin board material to feed off of.
Now, Marvin, you created a nice segue for me. You're talking about guys who like to talk. And there's a guy, one of your teammates, BJ Crane, and we talked about him a little earlier. And for you younger Pirates, think of Zeke Bigger, who played for the Pirates from, I guess, 2012 to 2015, something like that. Zeke really liked to talk. So BJ Crane was Zeke Bigger about 15, 20 years prior. But talk a little bit about BJ. I remember him always liking the mic and camera on him, or in front of him, I should say. And then also, after you talk about BJ, if you would talk a little bit about Mofo. Obviously, we unfortunately lost Mofo. I guess it's about 14, 15 years ago now.
Yeah, BJ was a great player. That was his personality, you know, and that's what you understand. We had a mixture of different personalities, you know, and that was BJ. BJ was a limelight guy. BJ was the flasher. BJ was that type of person, and that's what he did. That's how he played the game on the field. I mean, he took what he used. He took his talents or his personality and used it to help push our defense to the next level. I mean, he was our mouthpiece. He was the talker. You know, he was a talker in front of people because he could articulate, you know, what we wanted to say. A lot of us at that time our articulation wasn't media material, if you want to say. It might have had a couple four-letter, some cuss words in it. You know, we didn't know how to articulate. But BJ could take what we were feeling and articulate it to the media, where it really didn't bash people, but if you read in between the lines, he was making a point. And that's how he really, you know, that's how he emphasized us. We did a lot of talking on the field. I mean, I'm from Florida. That's all we do is talk. That's how I grew up playing the game, is talking. You know, you talked. But on the field, there was a lot of talking that a lot of people don't know. If you mic'd up the field, I'm sure you'll hear a lot of stuff. They'll be pressing the beat button a lot. But you know, but he was able to take the words through articulation and really say, you know, what we were feeling or what we were thinking. And he a lot of times he used that to challenge us too as well. You know, he'll go, hey, I said this, so we need to perform. You know, and it was just another motivational tool for us to use, you know, during that time. And then Mo was just our quiet leader. You know, Mo did all this talking on the field. You know, Mo was a quiet guy, well reserved, but Mo, I call Mo E.F. Hutton. When he talked, you listen, because it showed in his performance. You knew Mofo was going to be there. You knew Mofo was always going to be in position. You knew Mofo was smart. He was probably one of the smartest players that I played with. You know, he knew the game of football. He knew how to get in position. He understood what was going on, and he can adjust himself and adjust us as well. It's like, hey guys, if you see this is what they're doing when they do this. Hey, what we're going to do to combat it. And a lot of times that was our conversations on the sideline. They said, hey coaches, this is what they're doing on the field. What can we do to adjust this or combat or fix that? And that's what a lot of times Mofo did. And then when we need to up it up a notch or step it up a notch, amp it up, you know, Mofo really came out on the sideline. You know, you really see it. Or in the locker rooms during halftime, he'll call us over together, you know, give us some encouraging words, and then we'll go out there and perform. So Mofo was a really emotional leader that we had, and we really respected him because of, you know, what he did and how he carried himself.
Marvin, I was going to ask about, as far as Coach Logan, any of the coaches, do you have any favorite stories behind the scenes? I'm a huge fan of, like I said during the air, Coach Logan. I got a chance to work with him doing the coaches show at night on Sunday nights, and he was so funny. People didn't realize that until now when he has a radio show. He doesn't have the pressure of day-to-day operations and being the face of the program, if you will. Do you have any Coach Logan stories, some funny things he said, or we always say Loganisms, or any coaches behind the scenes that said something funny or they did something that's memorable?
Coach Logan was a funny guy. I mean, a lot of times you didn't know when to take him serious, excuse me, or when not to take him serious, because everything that y'all hear now, we heard behind closed doors. So when I listen to him on the radio show and hear some of the things he's saying, it's funny to me. You know, I was happening to be riding, me and one of my good friends, we were riding, listening to the radio show. And he looked at me like, man, I can't believe, I'm over there. Logan said something about somebody. I can't remember. And I started laughing. He was like, man, he's actually said that? He's like, I don't believe he said that. I said, man, Logan used to say that all the time. You know, that it was nothing for us. So guys that played under Logan and hear him on the radio show, you know, you laugh at some of the things that he's saying because we done heard it before. Coach Jett was a funny guy. I mean, Coach Jett was we was in the meeting room, so I played linebacker. Coach Jett was our position coach. But he was a very unique guy. I mean, I can tell y'all plenty of stories that we had, you know, sitting in our meeting room. But Coach Jett would every day or every week, Coach Jett would do something to really make us laugh or do something. But that was just his natural personality. So I mean, I got a lot of funny stories. I can't remember them per se exactly, but it was an enjoyable moment. And you know, and people are now starting to experience Coach Logan for who he was behind closed doors that they didn't see at that time through the media.
One of the things, that's what, since we're on the topic of Coach Logan, really comes to mind, I want to say it's when we won the Liberty Bowl in '95, beat Stanford 19-13, and then right when the horn was sounding, the time had just elapsed off the clock. I think Coach Logan kind of turned around, and you were one of the closest players to him. He grabbed you by the arms, and then your eyes got big, like they were about to pop out of your head, like Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I remember that, and you know, a lot of times I think about that moment, and when I replay, sometimes I sit back and watch some of the games, and I saw the end of that game. I mean, I didn't know what he was about to do. It was one of them things, Coach Logan grabbed me, and he shook me. It was like, yeah, we did it. And I'm looking at him like, okay, what's about to happen? You know, real shock. And then you notice a smile came on my face because, I mean, it was a big accomplishment for him. It's like he got the monkey off his back, you know, per se. We finally reached the goals that he was trying to accomplish for the program. And hush all the naysayers. You know, a lot of times, you know, you got a lot of naysayers out there, and it was real big. It was a real big turning point for the program. You know, Coach Logan had been in the program for years, and to go out and, you know, finally become the head coach and then go through the 2-9 season and then finally reach the bowl game and lose it the way we lost it, you know, he had a lot of pressure on him as well, you know, and I'm able to understand that now because I coach high school football. So I understand the pressures. It may be not at the level that he had, but I understand the pressures that he faced, and for him to, you know, grab me and really shake me like that and really shock the crap out of me. You know, it showed that that was an emotional moment for him. And then Coach Logan really didn't get too emotional. You know, he was cut and dry to what he was, but for him to do that and show that emotion is a kind of special moment.
So going back to 97, you referenced that you're now a coach, and we have a couple times during this interview. So over the last 20-plus years, tell Pirate Nation what you've been up to and what you're currently doing.
Well, I started off after playing, you know, I got into coaching. I started off in middle school, and then I ended up getting my really first big gig at Washington High School, right around the corner from the school. So started coaching, was a defensive coordinator there, PE teacher, you know, and I coached baseball. I ended up coaching baseball, track, you know, a number of sports at that school. Then I went on and joined Daniel Finn at D.H. Conley. So I was coaching over at D.H. Conley with Daniel Finn, and then we went over to Southeast Raleigh, started coaching over there really, you know, in Raleigh. And that's when I started feeling the NC State stuff when I got to Raleigh, understanding the magnitude of that, ECU, NC State. And then after that, I ended up getting my first job in South Carolina as a head coach. And then a couple of years after that, I went back to being a head coach at Southeast Raleigh. And then I got an AD job just recently, probably 2 years ago. I got an AD job at Smithfield Summer High School. And then one day my wife just got a epiphany. She wanted to move back home to Jacksonville, Florida. So we uprooted everything, sold our house, uprooted everything, moved here last April. So I've been in Jacksonville, Florida for about a year and a half, almost a year and a half now, back home, and I'm a dean of students at a charter school.
Oh, that's outstanding. I wanted to ask you, too, a couple quick questions as far as Greenville and as far as the changes you've seen. What changes have you seen? I know you've had a chance to get back from the time we were there, our era in the mid-'90s, to now. I know, Bubba, we can talk about another podcast. They're building a life science building. It's a new building. It'll be ready in a couple of years. But what changes have you seen, and what memories do you have as far as being around Greenville, certain restaurants or places on Fifth Street you partake in?
I remember, Boldy's. Boldy's was a great spot, to eat. And then Alfredo's was the place, to get the late-night pizza. I know everybody in Greenville, about Alfredo's. And, and then the Attic. The Attic was a fun place to go to downtown as well. But just looking at the development of ECU, I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, man, we sitting back. These guys are in luxury compared to what we have. They got the new weight room on the back of the building. They remodeled the locker room, et cetera. All the stuff that they got going on now, we didn't have.
Right.
Basically they could go to their locker room and sleep there overnight. We didn't want to sleep in our locker room.
I remember that time.
We were ready to get up out of the locker room. The weight room is double the size what it was. Coach Connors used to have to squeeze 80-something players, 100 players into that weight room at times, and then we had to section it off. The offense worked at a certain time, defense worked at a certain time. It's amazing, how the development of the program has become, and the facilities itself. It's nice to see, what they're doing. If I drive there, you can't take the same roads that you used to take, the sports med building, you can't take no more. Because once you get there, I got lost one time trying to figure out how to get in. So, it's amazing. It's impressive, but I'm kind of jealous a little bit.
Well, speaking of facilities, because you're a former player, I want to get your take. I think the scuttlebutt, as I mentioned a few times on this podcast and certainly on this series, everybody wants the political football, if you will, as an indoor practice facility. Can you talk about, as a former player, when you were talking about the locker room, it means more coming from you. Can you talk about things that you think that's needed to take our program to bigger heights that we've never seen before?
A lot of things that I'm learning, after coaching high school football, taking kids to different recruiting trips and visiting schools. It's facilities, the ambiance. That's what the kids want to see. This generation is totally different than our generation. I think our generation was more blue collar. Whatever you give us, we're going to take it. We're going to make the most out of it. These kids, these days are stuck in the ambiance, of going to a facility, and it looks like a mega hall. It looks like something lush, a resort per se. And that's the thing that's going to take our program to the next level. We got to find a way to attract kids. How are you going to attract these kids that are social media driven? Everything is through social media. Everything is hype. So how are you going to attract that? You got kids taking pictures in locker rooms and stadium auditoriums that they use, stadium seating auditoriums that they use to have meeting rooms. I took a kid to Tennessee, and it's just phenomenal to see what they're doing out there. And you're thinking like, okay, the Penn State, look at their facilities. Their facility is phenomenal. So, you got to think these kids are also getting recruited by these programs as well. So what we got at ECU to offer that's similar or the same as what these other schools offer. And you got to upgrade your facilities. We need people to, to donate millions of dollars, I was going to say, in order to catch up with the bigger people. You know, if you're going to compete with the Power 5 schools or the schools in conferences, your facilities have to match what they're doing.
No question about it. I had a question as far as when it comes to the current staff. If you had a chance to take a look at being a former player, hey, Coach Mike Houston, he wants former players involved in practices. He wants you guys to come to games. He's going to do special. They're trying to reach out to the former players, which that's something that's been, in my opinion, missing, and I'm glad to see that he's doing that. Do you have I just want to get your thoughts on Coach Mike Houston and staff, and I'm hoping that you'll come to as many games as you can. I know you're in Jacksonville and coaching, but hopefully we can get you back.
Well, I really don't know too much about Mike Houston for what I've been reading or what I've been seeing, but I've seen that, you know, his staff is he got Coach Steele back working with his staff, if I'm not wrong, and I think Coach Shankwilder is back. You know, those are ECU. You know, they've been at ECU when it was nothing, so they understand the blue collar work ethic that we had to portray when we were there. So they understand that. I mean, and Mike Houston's success is based on the talent that he has there. You know, I've learned in high school. You know, I learned through coaching that a new coach is only as good as the previous coach players. You know, previous coach and recruiting class. So I think, you know, we got some good players coming in. I think Coach Montgomery's staff did a great job of locking in the top talent from Eastern North Carolina. I think, you know, the DN, the guys from a couple of guys from the guy from Farmville, the guy from South Central, the guy from Northeastern. You know, those are big time recruits. You know, and those guys are the receiver from D.H. Conley. You know, those guys are staying home and wants to see ECU be successful. And now Mike Houston, all he has to do is take those kids and really get them to buy into his system, and then he prepares them to put them in position. And now all these kids have to do is perform. So I think, you know, going throughout the years, if he continues recruiting the kids in Eastern North Carolina that are the top-notch kids that can help their program win the state, win Eastern North Carolina, win the state, I think he's going to have plenty of success as a coach, because it doesn't matter what you know as a coach mentally. You know, if you don't have the players there in your program to perform, you're not going to be successful. You know, and that's just the bottom line to it. You know, you could take, it don't matter if you have Bill Belichick. If you got Bill Belichick with players that are not non-talented players, his success rate is not going to be as high. But if you put talent around a coach that is able to prepare kids and get them in position, and you got those kids to perform, and the success rate of the program and the coach is going to be high.
Marvin, you've certainly been very generous with your time this morning. We certainly appreciate it. As we're wrapping this thing up, something I wanted to mention is how on October 19th, the Pirates will be making their way down to UCF, and I know that's a game that you'll have to look forward to, as that's an easy drive for you.
Yeah, it is. It's something that I looked into. One of my coworkers, she's a big UCF grad. She's a UCF grad. She follows the football team. They got season tickets for 20 years or whatever what she's telling me she got. I mean, everything in her office is UCF, and she saw the new sketch. She saw the schedule, and she came up to me and she just pointed at that game and walked off. And so I kind of know what she means. So it's going to be, you know, I may not have the NC State ECU rivalry type bragging rights, but I got the UCF ECU bragging rights. So, you know, there's something that we look forward to going to, and I know I'm going to try to make sure I get down there to see them play and really want to be a part of that experience and watch them beat UCF so I can come back to work and brag.
Well, we definitely hope that comes true, because we had them on the ropes last year, and I know, unfortunately, Holton fumbled in the end zone there. That was going to make it a really close game, and then they pulled away. But hopefully we can get a win on the road, and certainly, Marvin, thank you so much. You've been one of the best we've ever had, and didn't expect to keep you this long. But thank you so much for everything you did for Pirate Nation. And definitely, we don't want you to be a stranger. We hope you'll come back and participate on the podcast. Again, at the very beginning of the podcast, thank you for the kind words, because I don't think people realize the amount of time and effort, if not the blood and sweat and tears of Coach Connors and the coaches, but we put hours and hours in the podcast just for, you know, a few shows a week. So I appreciate the kind words, and thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you, guys. Like I said before, man, what y'all doing, this platform that y'all have, y'all think y'all using it in a positive way. And like I said before, I pray this thing blow up to bigger things for you guys. And I enjoyed being on this podcast, and hopefully I can be on it again. This was fun.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!